If you want to pass your job interview, make sure you watch this podcast. I am going to answer the most common questions people ask about job interviews. If you want to beat the competition, listen to the answers I am about to give. And just very quickly, tell me the name of the role you are being interviewed for in the comment section below the video so I can give you some extra tips. Okay, let's start watching the podcast. Take note of the answers I am about to give to the common questions people ask when preparing for their interviews. Here we go.
To start with, what are 3 things every candidate should do before attending a job interview?
Number 1, make sure you research the company. This is very important. Make sure you know what the company actually does. The second thing you should do before your interview is to consider carefully what you are going to wear. You have to come across as someone who cares and who is standards driven. So make sure you wear a smart and professional outfit to create a positive impression. And the third thing you should do before your job interview is find out the type of questions you will have to answer for your specific job role. You can find out the questions you will have to answer by telling me the role you are being interviewed for in the comment section below this podcast. I will then give you a list of the questions you will have to answer. I strongly recommend every candidate practices their answers before the interview because one of the biggest things they will be assessed on is communication skills.
What's the biggest mistake people make when preparing for interviews?
The biggest mistake people make is failing to prepare their job interview introduction. So right at the start of an interview, the hiring manager will say either tell me about yourself or introduce yourself. Candidates often give an answer that lacks structure. They start rambling on about their personal life and hobbies or interests, things that have no relevance on their ability to do the job competently. So I strongly recommend all candidates prepare a solid job interview introduction, and later on in this podcast, I will explain exactly what a candidate should say in their answer.
How important is researching the company, and what should candidates focus on?
Not researching the company is probably one of the main reasons why people fail interviews. I've heard candidates sit in front of me before saying, so what does your company actually do? If a candidate says that, I will not offer them the job because that tells me they are only interested in a paycheck. All candidates must research the company before their interview. Do the following things. First of all, go onto their website About Us page. Find out what they actually do, a little bit about their history and the products and services they sell. And the next thing to do is to make sure they follow them on social media so they are aware of the company's latest news stories. If you don't research the company before your interview, you won't get the job.
What's your advice for someone who feels completely unprepared?
If a candidate feels totally underprepared, they can do one powerful thing that is pretty much guaranteed to impress the interviewer. And that is to take with them to the interview a 30, 60 and 90-day plan of action. This plan of action is a printed document they give to the hiring manager at any point during the interview. This document is so powerful because it tells the hiring manager the candidate is workplace ready. And if anyone watching this podcast wants to download my ready-made 30, 60 and 90-day plans for interviews, they can click that link at any time and go through to my website, passmyinterview.com.
What's the fastest way to overcome interview nerves?
There is a brilliant technique you can use to reduce interview nerves significantly, and it's this. Always remember that a job interview is simply a meeting between you and a potential employer. It's just a meeting to find out whether they want to hire you for the job role and also whether you want to work for the company. The problem is the majority of candidates make the situation worse in their mind. They build up the interview so much in their mind, they are then unable to perform to the level they want to. But when you tell yourself it's just a meeting, then your nerves will reduce significantly. And always remember this, A job interview is a learning experience. You will get to learn what goes on during the interview process, which means you'll be far better prepared for the next time.
Why do so many candidates struggle with confidence in interviews?
Most people struggle because a job interview is effectively an unfamiliar event. The majority of people will probably only go to a handful of job interviews during their lifetime. Because it's an unfamiliar event, people lack confidence. For example, the more you drive your car or vehicle, the more confident you will become. So the best thing to do to gain confidence is to carry out a mock interview before the real thing. Practice giving your answers in front of a friend or relative, or even sit down in front of a mirror, because then you are replicating the interview process, and when you attend the real thing, your confidence will improve significantly.
Is there a simple technique people can use to stay calm under pressure?
Yes, I can actually give you two very simple techniques. Number one is to practice breathing deeply before your interview. Before you go into your interview, before it starts, take deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. This will help to reduce nerves significantly. It will calm your mind. And the second simple technique to use is to pause before you answer the questions, because there's a tendency in job interviews for candidates to rush because they want the interview to be over as soon as possible. But when the hiring manager asks you a question, pause momentarily before you answer, and that will give your mind time to think what it is you want to say.
How can someone come across as confident even if they don't feel it?
There is one very simple thing anyone can do to come across as confident in a job interview, even if they don't feel it, and that is to dress professionally, because the interviewer will form an opinion of the candidate within the first 7 seconds of meeting them. If they are dressed professionally, it tells the hiring manager this person cares and they are confident. And if you dress professionally, it makes you feel confident naturally. So make sure you put lots of effort into your appearance.
What should you do if your mind goes blank during an interview?
If your mind goes blank, and by the way, this happens a lot in job interviews, just say this to the hiring manager. Would it be okay to revisit the question at the end of the interview? Or you could say this: I don't know the answer to that question. However, I will research it after the interview and I will email you with my response.
How important are first impressions in an interview?
We all know that first impressions are super important. Think about it. When you meet someone for the first time, you are already judging them before they speak. So first impressions are critical. As I said previously, the majority of hiring managers will form an opinion of the candidate within 7 seconds of the interview starting. Dress smart and make sure you demonstrate really good body language and interview technique. And also make sure you are positive and you smile throughout your interview.
What are some subtle ways a candidate can instantly impress a hiring manager?
There are two ways a candidate can instantly impress any hiring manager. At the start of the job interview, I recommend they demonstrate good manners. They can say this: "Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity." Just by saying thank you for the opportunity will help get the interview off to a positive start, because I believe manners are not commonplace anymore in society. So if you say thank you, it will certainly impress the interviewer. And the second thing you can do is to say this: "I am very excited about the possibility of working at your company." That's a great thing to say. As I always say to candidates, be positive throughout your interview and show passion and enthusiasm for the role.
In those first few seconds of an interview, what should you actually say?
You should simply say this: "Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I am very excited about the possibility of working at your company." As I said previously, these are great things to say because it gets the interview off to a positive start and it tells the hiring manager you have good manners and you are excited about the job role.
Why do you think interviewers always ask, "Tell me about yourself"?
They ask the tell me about yourself question for two main reasons. Number one, to assess the candidate's communication skills. That is why it is vital the candidate practices their introduction several times before their interview, because if they can't talk about themselves with confidence, they probably won't get the job. And the second reason why they ask the question, tell me about yourself, is to quickly establish whether the candidate has the skills and qualities needed to do the job role competently.
And what's the best way to structure your answer to that question?
I recommend the candidate uses my brilliant SEAT structure, SEAT, and the candidate can remember that structure because they will be sitting down on a seat at their job interview. S stands for the skills they have that match the job description. Make sure you read the job description before your interview. E stands for the experience you can bring to the role, or your educational background if this is your first ever job role. A stands for brief details of achievements you have attained in your life so far. These tell the hiring manager you already have a track record of success. And finally, T stands for the type of person you are and what you will do in the role to have a positive impact on the team and company. And if anyone wants to watch me give the perfect SEAT structure answer to the question, tell me about yourself, they can watch that video at any time.
How should someone answer, why do you want this job?
I recommend a candidate says they want the job for two reasons. Reason number one, it is a role that they are very passionate about. They could say, we spend approximately 25% of our lives at work, and they want that time to be spent doing a job that they love, where they will get a sense of purpose and job satisfaction. And the second reason I recommend they say they want the job is because it is with their company. I want this job because it is with your company. I researched you and I am attracted to your positive workplace culture and impressive set of company values.
What's a strong way to answer, what are your strengths?
The best way to answer this common but difficult question is to align your strengths with those featured on the job description. The job description is the blueprint for the role you have applied for. Read it before your interview because it will tell you the skills and strengths the hiring manager is looking for from the ideal candidate. For example, if the job description states that they are looking for a proactive problem solver, say this: one of my greatest strengths is I am a proactive problem solver, and then give the hiring manager an example of when you solved a difficult problem in a previous role. I recommend the candidate gives a minimum of 3 strengths in their answer that align with the job description.
Why is what is your biggest weakness such a tricky question?
It's a very tricky question because the majority of people think they should say, I don't have any weaknesses, or they think they should say, my biggest weakness is I am a perfectionist. Do not say either of those things. This question is assessing honesty because we all have weaknesses and self-awareness. I would suggest the best weaknesses for job interviews are as follows: public speaking, being impatient, and struggling to say no to people, which means you sometimes overcommit.
How should candidates approach behavioural interview questions?
Behavioural interview questions assess previous strong work performance. For example, tell me about a time when you worked on a team, tell me about a time when you had a conflict with a co-worker, and tell me about a time when you had to deal with a difficult customer. The best way to answer these and other behavioural interview questions is to use what is called the STAR method, STAR. Begin your answer and tell the hiring manager the situation you were in. T stands for the task that needed your attention. Then tell the hiring manager the action you took to complete the task, and then finish your answer with the result. And always make sure the result is positive following your actions. Use the STAR method to score highly when answering any behavioural question.
Can you share a great example of how to answer a tell me about a time question?
Perhaps the most common behavioural question is, tell me about a time when you worked on a team. Let me give you a good example answer. In my previous role, I worked on a team whose responsibility it was to launch a new company product. Our task was to achieve the best sales for the company when launching this new product. The action we took was as follows. We held an initial team meeting to brainstorm ideas. I suggested we launch the product on social media using targeted adverts, while others on the team suggested we offer our loyal customers a discount code. At the end of the team meeting, we had 7 powerful ideas that our manager approved. We then set to work using each other's strengths to launch the product successfully. And the result was impressive. We achieved a 17% increase on the company's previous best ever product launch, which was a testament to the team's dedication and hard work. So that is a brilliant example of how to answer that difficult but common behavioural question using the STAR method.
How do you answer questions about conflict with a co-worker?
Whatever you do, do not say you would either ignore the conflict or tell your manager about it. How would you deal with a conflict with a co-worker is designed to assess whether you are willing to take ownership of the conflict. The hiring manager wants to hear you say this. First, I would assess my words and actions to make sure I was not causing or contributing negatively to the conflict. Second, I would clarify the reason for the conflict. I would meet privately with my co-worker to ascertain their views as to why the conflict had occurred. This would allow me to gain perspective. And finally, I would take ownership of the conflict by holding open and honest conversations with my co-worker until we found an amicable solution that empowered us to move forward for the team's benefit.
What should candidates do if they've never faced the scenario being asked about?
This is a common problem during job interviews, especially for relatively inexperienced candidates. If the hiring manager said to me, tell me about a time when you delivered excellent customer service, but I'd never done that before, I would simply tell the hiring manager what I would do in that situation.
What are some powerful phrases candidates should use in their answers?
Let me give you 2 really powerful phrases someone can say in their interview. The first one is, I always take ownership of difficult problems. Or if you are giving an example of what you have done in a previous role, say, I took ownership of the problem. This tells the hiring manager you are someone who is accountable, and that's a great thing. The second thing to say is incredibly powerful, and it's this: I am commercially aware. I understand that you are paying me a salary and I have a duty to give you a strong return. Say those 2 phrases in your interview and your chances of getting offered the job will increase significantly.
What's a great closing statement at the end of an interview?
Early on in my career, when I used to attend job interviews, I would always say this at the end of my interview, and it usually landed me the job. With me, you will get 3 things. Number 1, you will get someone with a strong work ethic. I will come into the role, have an immediate impact, and I will require minimal supervision. Number 2, you will get a committed problem solver. I will always take ownership of problems whenever they occur. And number 3, you will be getting someone who is commercially aware. I understand you are paying me a salary and I have a duty to give you a great return. Thank you so much for interviewing me. I wish you well with the other candidates, and I look forward to hearing from you soon with the result. Thank you.
And finally, if you could give one piece of advice to guarantee interview success, what would it be?
One piece of advice, it's very simple. Know as much as you can about the company you are applying to work at. The more you know, the greater chances you will have of success. Because if you know a lot about the company, it tells the hiring manager you are serious about working there long term. Remember this, it takes a lot of time, effort, resources and money to find someone for a job role and train them. If the hiring manager thinks a candidate will stay working there long term, they will be more likely to offer them the job. Let me ask you a very quick question. Would you like me to write your answers for you based on your CV or resume, your experience, and the role and company you are applying to work at? If the answer is yes, click that link right now and go through to my website, passmyinterview.com. My tailored interview answer service comes with a full money back guarantee. That means if you don't get offered the job after using the answers I create for you, I will refund your payment. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Have a great day.